All right, welcome back to the channel. If you're just joining me for the first time, welcome. Got a new one out here for you today. This is a P38. It's not a Walter, it's actually a Mauser. Let's go ahead and clear it. Hoping to get some new content out there for you all. Do some shooting tests, have a closer look at it. Overall, this pistol is in pretty decent shape. It does have some pitting scars on the slide. I'm going to hit the highlights about it, and then I'm going to show a little bit of range footage. You see some pitting scars right there on the slide. And that's about it. I haven't really noticed any anywhere else. A little bit of discoloration on this upper part of the slide right there. This is my first Mauser. I thought it would be a good counterpoint to my M1911, a good nemesis for my 1911, which is actually a 1944. This one, the P38, is dated, it's BYF, which is Mauser, 1943. It does have matching serial numbers on the slide and frame, as well as the barrel assembly. The barrel assembly, the slide, and the frame. You can see the Waffenot stamps on the frame and just above the trigger. And the 1943 design isn't exactly a late war. As far as last stitch goes, I feel pretty safe shooting this one. I've fired it several times now. This one does feel pretty beefy in your hands. Not so much as 1911, but the added weight with a full magazine does make it just a little bit heavier than most smaller pistols I've got. It's definitely a lot heavier than my PPKS, which of course is newer, but it seems like it's a little bit easier to operate. This one really reminds me a lot of the Beretta 92 I used to have, and I've got some videos up on that one. It's got a pretty good all around look to it. I did notice, and maybe you can comment on this, one of the high points that I did notice is inside the safety. You can really see some machining marks inside there. I really feel like that might have been rushed during production. I don't know, but this is the only one I've ever had, so if you've got one and you think differently, drop me a comment and let me know what you think. Of course, it's got the heel release as opposed to the button release on a lot of more modern handguns, including the 1911. Even my old Beretta, it was a 92S, maybe mid to late 80s manufacture. It had a heel release as well. You've got a lanyard sling right here. I'm assuming that these are hard rubber grips. I'm not really sure what material this is or what it's called, but they're in okay shape. It looks like you can definitely tell it's been used, maybe dropped a few times. It's got a lot of dents and scratches, but the biggest thing is that grabbed my eye about this is there are no import marks. So I think it's safe to assume, I'm not aware of any mass importation of World War II firearms, and I'm sure I'll see it in the comments. There might have been at some point, but I'm assuming that by the whole collection here that this was a GI bring back. It did come with 2 magazines. One of them is a true Walter. It's a P1, so it's an aftermarket magazine. This one isn't as, I'm not as impressed with this one. It's pretty worn and it's old. It doesn't function as good, but I do have an original P38 magazine here, also stamped with the Waffen Eagle. But the serial number for this magazine does not match the one, it does not match the serial number stamped on the gun, so I'm not too upset about that, but I did find it interesting. When it came, it also came with this very, very well worn leather holster. I'm not a big flap holster guy, and I'm not crazy about this, but you can tell that pretty much since this thing made its way back across the Atlantic that it's probably been in this same holster. And it is a German manufactured P38 holster. Again, not original to the gun. Like the magazine, it's not original to the gun, but with the factory and the Waffen stamps there, this is the real deal. The action works fairly smoothly. I did tear it apart and clean it. Before I shot it, once I received it, I did tear the whole thing apart and cleaned it. And it looked like it had not been cleaned in many, many years. And the one issue I did have with it, once I got it out to the range, when I racked it, when I pulled the trigger, I had to pull the trigger twice for the trigger bar to engage. And this is the trigger bar over here on this side. And what it was is one of the springs had come loose. There's a little tiny leaf spring in there, and it had come out of its track. So really you had to pull the trigger twice to get it to engage and release so that it would fire. So I just put that spring back in there and it works like a charm now. The first truly German World War II pistol that I have owned. And I will say when you fire it, it almost even feels like what you'd hear in the movies. And I've fired a 9mm many times, many times. I have a Glock 26 and I've had others. But for some reason, maybe it's just mentally, your brain's locked in. It really feels like you're firing in a World War II movie. The sound really matches the gun, and it's just an impressive experience. And I'm thankful to have this piece of history. I haven't had it too long, but I did have it long enough to take it over to a local gun show. The one we have here locally is closest to my house. It's just a few miles from here, and there's maybe 150 vendors that come to this thing. And I walked around with it all day, and nobody really showed any interest. I had a few people ask me what it was. They took a look at it, but nobody was really interested in throwing a price out. Not that I would have sold it, I just bought it, but I just wanted to gauge some interest. So if it really is that hard to sell this thing, or maybe the market's cool right now, then I may be holding on to it for some time, at least for the time being. Factory stamp here, BYF. I mentioned earlier that is Mauser. There were 3 factories that made these because the patent came in 1938. By 1939, they began production, and they were seen as an improvement over the Luger because they didn't have as many moving parts. So if you own a Luger, if you've ever seen one up close, you know what I'm talking about. These things look 100 years more advanced than a Luger, just on the inside and out. And at the time, they were all the rage. So they pumped them out as fast as they could. And the war effort, Spree Works and Mauser got on board with the production. There's also a couple of stamps on here that I'm not sure what they mean. There's a B right there and a 3 right there. I haven't looked that up to see exactly what that means. Right here, there's a little spring I was telling you about. It was disengaged, and so when you pulled the trigger, it wasn't pushing enough tension on there for the trigger bar to actually release the trigger mechanism. You can see quite a bit of wear inside there where the magazine sat. On the front side, on the back side, not so much. It looks pretty clean, but this part inside here was pretty clean. You could tell that whoever had it before me hadn't really shot it all that much, but they also hadn't cleaned it all that much. So here's another look at the nitro proof on this side with the Eagle. I'm sure the 3 and the Bravo down here, the B, is probably just some other nitro proof or inspector stamp of some sort. Oh, we're gonna have a closer look. I've got the field strip done here. So inside the barrel mechanism, it's stamped with the last 3 of the serial number. Full serial number stamped right below the barrel, and another Waffen Eagle right here. And impressively, they have a tiny one stamped right there. The bore is okay. It's not terrible. It's also not the best I've ever seen. But I'll tell you, this thing needs a lot of attention. No matter, I've tried 2 different kinds of ammo. Maybe it's not a fair enough sample size to really judge this, but I have tried 2 different types of ammo, and it really takes a lot of cleaning. I mean, the carbon and residue really make its way down inside of all the channels, nooks and crannies, every little microscopic groove, it seems like. has some sort of residue in it from the ammunition. I've noticed some other folks on YouTube, they take chalk and just to make the markings stand out. Similar to what the military does in their arms room. When you're inventorying, you take some chalk and rub it over the serial number so it's more visible. I haven't really been able to do that with this one because I have kept it with quite a bit of oil on it. I spent all the time cleaning it up, and definitely don't want those pitting scars to turn into anything worse. After the fall of the Nazi regime, the Walter P38 didn't just fade away into history. When West Germany was allowed to rearm in the 1950s, the P38, updated as the P1, just like my magazine I showed earlier, was chosen as the Bundeswehr's standard sidearm. A wartime design carried a brand new nation. The P1 version served well into the 1990s, overlapping with modern 9mm pistols like SIGs and Berettas. The 1930s design was keeping pace with Cold War hardware. Walter and Moneron of France built them with peacetime machining, meaning cleaner lines, smoother actions, better finish than many wartime variants. The problem you see with a lot of surplus from this period now is they weren't very well taken care of and they were kind of neglected. So you're going to see some models that are less than desirable. Comparing this with the Beretta M9 that I used to have, both guns feel surprisingly similar in weight, recoil, and overall balance. The biggest difference here is the sight picture. The M9 gives you a cleaner, wider rear notch and a brighter front blade, making it noticeably easier to pick up and aim compared to the P38's narrower wartime sights. It's just going to take me a little time to get used to it. So thanks for watching, thanks for coming by, and I'll see you in the next one.